Welcome back to the Food on Demand podcast, where we dish up insights on the future of food relating to off-premises operations and the overall digital dining experience. I'm Bernadette Heyer, Managing Editor.
And I'm Hans Zammerman, Food Service and Technology Reporter. Food on Demand is your exclusive source covering the ongoing transformation of how people discover, shop, order, and consume food in the digital age.
Well, we have a great interview today I'm very excited about with Alexis Parra. She is the co-founder of Nékter Juice Bar, as well as their Chief Visionary Officer. But first, it's time for our Quick Bites segment. So, Hans, what's been on your plate lately?
Well, I'm super excited to introduce a new segment that we have every month called Around the Industry. So in this monthly feature, it's kind of a Q&A style where I talk to three experts. This first time around, which was just 2 weeks ago, I talked about the most impressive value menu initiatives that three researchers and analysts in the industry saw so far. So it's really cool to hear from them. They had three different restaurants, all that surprised me. So it was very cool to see, and I'm excited to see how this continues to evolve. And we're going to cover different topics, talk to different operators and different sources all around the industry going forward. What about you? What are you working on?
Well, first, I just want to mention I'm really excited for this series. And just for a quick teaser, what's one of those brands that were mentioned to be kind of excelling in that space right now?
Well, I'll give two here, a little sample. So one of them mentioned McDonald's, which is definitely what a lot of people are hearing about with their $3 and $4 menu. So that's very neat. That one I could say was a little bit more expected, but that is a very cool initiative that's going on. And then also Chili's was one that the other expert mentioned. And while it's not necessarily a traditional value menu, it is certainly an interesting approach to having a more affordable meal.
Yeah, we'll definitely check that out. For me, I was covering some news on the drone world this week, including Zipline, which has now expanded its service to several more restaurants in Texas. So Zipline is one of the leading autonomous drone delivery companies out there that not only does delivery for restaurants, but medical supplies across the world. But they've been really growing, as well as drone delivery in general in the Texas area. So it has expanded. It now will be in the Rolette, Texas area with brands like Walmart, Crumble Cookies, Little Caesars Pizza, Popeyes, Blaze Pizza, and some local grocers as well. Zipline has already been expanding the DFW Metroplex area, which I've covered quite a bit. And in less than a year, it now delivers, I think, thousands of orders a day in that area. But that's a really nice segue into our Food on Demand conference, which is just right around the corner, May 5th through 7th in Dallas this year. And we're actually going to be having Keller Redondo Clifton, the founder and CEO of Zipline, keynoting our conference as part of the Future Delivery panel, showing us some origin stories and impact, as well as then we're having Zach Rash, CEO of Coco Robotics, joining in the latter half to explain autonomous sidewalk delivery. So a lot of future of delivery mobility things are going to be covered at the conference, and we're very excited to kick it off here soon in Dallas. So please check it out.
Yeah, nothing makes me think that the future is here more than hearing about, pies in the sky and an actual autonomous delivery vehicle. So it's very exciting. Looking forward to reading your article and to the Food on Demand conference.
All right, well, now we'll get into our guest interview. Hi, Alexis. Thank you so much for joining our podcast today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you guys.
Well, we're really excited to dive into quite a bit here. But first, for a little background, Alexis Parra is the co-founder and chief visionary officer at Nékter Juice Bar, which is a fast casual juice and smoothie brand built around making healthy eating more accessible, functional, and craveable. Alexis leads the brand's menu innovation and long-term vision with a focus on plant-based, nutrition-rich offerings that fit a wide range of lifestyles. Beyond the brand, she's also the founder of Sojourn Foundation, a nonprofit centered on mission-driven travel and service work with children in developing countries. Yeah. So we're excited to get into a lot of that, Alexis, but I'd love to start with your background and what originally led you to the idea of Nékter Juice Bar.
Yeah, so I was a teacher, all through college, did my master's in education. And when I had kids, I got into yoga. So through yoga, yogas are kind of hippies, right? So we were going to get a green juice afterwards, and I didn't love how they tasted. It was actually really hard to get a warm. A lot of them were back like we're talking like 15, 20 years ago. They were warm and not very palatable. So when I started doing it, I started adding like more lemon or apple, making them taste better and adding ice. And then I got so used to the flavor and actually really started craving one, but I felt amazing. So it was like, hey, we need to like start doing this. So I was like making my husband at the time drink them, and then my husband was eating acai bowls, but he was eating at this other brand, and those were like loaded with sugar. And I was like, I think we can do this healthier. So it was just kind of like the merging of these couple things that we were doing that we were like, we should open a business, and literally no business plan. Like I always tell people, it's the funniest thing. Like we had no idea what we're doing. I didn't know what cost of goods were. I didn't know anything. I just was like, oh, this works. Let's put this on. We got very fortunate that like things worked at the time. I don't think you could get away with that nowadays, but it was great.
And Nékter Juice Bar has grown like weeds, or maybe kale is a better analogy there. Um, from one restaurant in California in 2010 to over 350 locations now in development or open. Can you share just a little bit about, how the brand has grown and what do you think has led to some of that success?
I mean, the original locations were just kind of like we kind of fell into them, ironically. Our like very first franchise-ish type thing was like our graphic designer was like, I want to do this, and so she opened one in her neighborhood. And I think that's what like the magic of Nectar was, is it was this neighborhood juice bar, and we took things that maybe people would be intimidated by, and we made them simple, and you wouldn't walk in and feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. You didn't have to be a hippie. We were kind of like taking something and pulling it more in that mainstream profile. So we grew pretty quickly. At one point, we kind of stopped, pulled back, tightened all of our operational stuff, brought in some people to help us who actually knew, a lot of my recipes were like a handful of kale. And so being like foodies, that's how I cook. I love, and probably a lot of restaurateurs will say that it's like the hardest part is like structuring everything you do. So we pulled back, structured everything, made it all kind of more legitimate, our training programs, you kind of don't understand going into it how many processes you need to run a restaurant and actually have other people execute what you're doing. So we did a lot of that, and then we went. I mean, I feel like we've almost doubled in size every year, with little like changes here and there. And yeah, it's been a journey. It's been 16 years, so it's been quite a journey. A lot of it feels like a blur.
Well, something we follow closely at Food on Demand is menu innovation, and obviously that's a big part of Nékter Juice Bar from your beginning ideas to now. Speaking about current times, how do you approach that menu innovation? Are you utilizing guest data or looking at wellness trends in the space or consumers, changing behavior?
I mean, kind of all of it, right? It's a wild west out there right now. I feel like with, you have TikTok, everything changes so rapidly, right? Like what's trending, what people are going, the younger crowds are like, it's fast, and I think when you're a bigger chain, it's hard to be able to react to those things. So we're trying to keep an eye on that. We watch what our competitors are doing. Yeah, we are actually investing this year very heavily on data just to understand the people who don't know what we are, because we aren't like a typical smoothie and juice bar. Like I think all of the legacy brands that have been around for a long time, and we're different. My goal was to do what they're doing, only make it a lot healthier, but still taste good, right? So I think there's a lack of like awareness out there, and so that we're trying to understand those people that don't quite understand who Nectar is, and just kind of really communicate with more outside of our four walls. The people that come to us love us, they feel great, they're healthy, and I think there is maybe a stigma around, a juice bar being something that doesn't taste good. And that's been one of the things I've really pride myself on, is making everything taste great, but be better for you. So it's a lot. I mean, menu innovation is such a I don't know. It's such like this beautiful beast, right? And I think I love it so much, but there's times where you're like, well, what else can you do with fruits and vegetables, right? Like there's so many combinations. And then when you're like, okay, now what? So those are the things that I find fun. And I try to really like just think outside the box. I'm watching competitors that aren't exactly competitors and going, oh, that's a really interesting a take on this. So maybe how can we do that?
And to dig a little bit more into the data aspect of it, and I know that Nékter definitely has an app that's very detail oriented and a lot of new features. Do you find that those digital channels kind of allow an avenue to gain some more insight into customer behavior and preferences?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we can actually pull our questions. We can pull based on like how frequency, timing, really get an understanding of like who, how often, what drives them. And then that helps us pick day parts and functionality, and then layering that within the data, we're getting kind of this like really cool merger of like, okay, we thought we were a lot more female skewed, but like as we've increased protein options and things of that nature, we're seeing a higher percentage of men coming in, which is really cool.
Yeah. And thinking about like off-premises operations, there's in-store, but also, what's going out the door. What does that look like today for you? Anything that surprised you, or are you seeing a lot of it being off-prem guests come in?
Yeah, I mean, post-COVID, we definitely, I think most brands would say probably very similar. Post-COVID, I think people got used to DoorDash and like bringing in all the different brands and ordering off the app, right? So third party has been more than 50% of our sales. So
And do you guys do a like CPG line or anything like that, or is it all out the door or in store?
everything's here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have our bottled juice line, but that's, again, bought in store.
yeah, awesome.
And you were just speaking about technology and kind of how that plays a role with the brand. Is there, a specific type of technology that you would say has been most impactful for the brand success?
Oh gosh. I mean, our app's so simple because we're making everything handcrafted. So when you walk in, we're ordering it, and that's how we're able to customize and make things kind of made to order. But that does take time, right? So with the inclusion of the app, I think about 35% are happening on the app. So it's like they're pre-ordering and then able to just swoop in and grab it. So it helps us from a timing perspective for sure.
And thinking about, your offerings at Nectar, did anything surprise you with any flavors that became really popular or, that were kind of unique that really hit the nail with consumers?
It's funny. We were just talking about this the other day. I feel like it's kind of the opposite with us. We almost are a little bit too early of an adapter sometimes. Like turmeric was like a big one, but I had like put it in our bottled juice years before it became a thing. And we laugh. We're like, oh no, we need to bring that back. But it didn't sell well for us back then. And I've noticed that we had matcha on the menu, and then like this year, matcha has blown up. Like I said, protein has been such a big one for us. We brought in waffles actually, and we added protein powder to them. So we have a protein waffle. We kind of create them like our acai bowls where we'll drizzle. We have these drizzles. We house make like a chocolate drizzle, and then we'll put that with peanut butter and bananas on a waffle, or berries with the coconut whipped cream, and then a little bit of blue drizzle. So it's like this beautiful little piece of art, but it's got all these yummy, fun ingredients on them. So that's been good. I mean, yeah, I think nothing really surprises me anymore at this point after 16 years. It's like, oh, I didn't think that one was gonna, but really, like I do feel like with us, the nostalgia really plays a big part into things. So bringing in things that people like peanut butter and jelly bowls or peanut butter and jelly smoothie did really well when we brought that one out as an LTO. There's been a few, yeah. So it's so hard to read.
And Bernadette mentioned she kind of teased your mission-driven work with the Sojourn Foundation earlier. And of course, that requires a lot of traveling. So, before going into that, I'd love to hear about how traveling to, so many different countries, if at all, has it impacted, your approach to smoothies or maybe even your taste for juices, that kind of thing?
Oh gosh. I mean, I'm a big traveler. I'm one of those people that doesn't spend money on things. I spend it on traveling, and I love to give back a little when I travel. So that's kind of all how that comes together. But it is funny. Like my husband and I we climbed Machu Picchu. We did the hike to Machu Picchu, the 2 day. And our guide, I was picking his brain, and it was so funny. He's like telling me about sour sap and how, the Peruvians think that it's like it cures cancer, and there's all these, and it's so funny how picking their brains about different South American fruits. That's been my favorite because there's so many, and I think that too, like when traveling to Africa or something, there's this element of like this ancient wisdom and, talking about, I think I was in Mexico and the lady's like, chew papaya seeds if you're not feeling well. And it's like all that just kind of hangs around in my brain as I'm like, okay, how do you incorporate that? And it's hard because people, again, you don't want to be too early of an adapter. There's a lot of ancient wisdom that is kind of maybe making its way back, but I don't want people to be like, what are you talking about? What's soursop? So it's interesting, but I love like just learning traditions and all the different ways people use food as medicine because essentially that's what we're doing, right? We're trying to like help people get real food in them.
Yeah. And can you tell us a bit about the Sojourn Foundation and what that is and means?
Yeah, so I had gone, I guess it's 2017. I went to Africa on a mission trip. So we went and worked with children in a school, went to an orphanage, a hospital, and raised critical funds. So when we got there, it was like it was the most rewarding thing I've ever done. When you hand a child a pencil or bring a little bag of Legos and they don't have toys. So they're so untouched. It was a very rural school and it's such a rewarding experience and it really makes you stop and go, okay, what are my priorities? And here I am worried about, our kids are worried about, did we get the next iPhone? And these kids are like, is there food on the table? And do I have a uniform so I can go to school and get an education? So it really like kind of makes you step outside yourself, outside of our world. So the goal was to like find other ways to bring that to people because not everyone can go to Africa. So we opened up locations, worked with schools and orphanages in Belize and in Costa Rica also.
Amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
it's been really nice to kind of juice your brain a little bit and get some insight into and get some insight into, the mind behind Nectar. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? We do have our do you have room for dessert section at the end of our interviews where we ask 3 fun lightning round questions. But is there
Okay.
anything else that you'd like to mention?
No, I mean, this is fun. I enjoyed all your questions. They're good ones.
So I know I also saw that you have authored a children's book.
Mhm.
Can you tell me what was one of your favorite childhood books? And also, are you reading anything right now you love?
Oh gosh. Let's see, childhood. I mean, I was always kind of a Dr. Seuss lover as a child. And then I followed all those Sweet Valley Highs. I'm totally dating myself there when I was younger. And then I was a total Harry Potter nerd. I literally was waiting for the next book to come out. Right now, life has gotten more stressful, and so I've started reading lighter books. So I'm like, I do love all of Colleen Hoover books, but generally I'm a historical fiction buff. One of my favorites is The Nightingale. So I am a total reader, but it's been hard lately to like engage.
Yeah.
Well, that's just more opportunity to find the next book.
I know. If you know of any, please send them along.
We'll brainstorm for you. And then how
Okay.
about could you give one dramatically overrated and one significantly underrated ingredient for juices and smoothies?
Oh gosh, overrated. Like kale would be the obvious one, right? Everyone's like, kale. It's amazing for you, but I think it's like, I feel like I'm gonna give you a long answer on this. I feel like sometimes people like, oh, if it has kale in it, it must be good for me. It's gluten free, it must be healthy. And that's not always the case. So that's why that would be overrated. And then underrated. Ooh. Dates. I love dates. They have potassium. I'm not a huge banana person, so like I sub dates instead of bananas and it's so sweet and yummy and tons of minerals. So that's underrated for sure.
Well, I think you're inspiring Hans and I to have a healthy lunch over here
Good.
at our lunchtime
No,
here in
no kale.
Minnesota. Well, thank you so much, Alexis. Short and sweet, but we loved bringing your story to Food on Demand and hearing all about, as you said, the juice behind the juice. So, anything else you'd like to add? Other than that, we just want to say thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate all you guys do, and this was fun.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as we did. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, concerns, or suggestions to info@foodondemand.com.
Thank you.